Hello. My name is Jerzy Drozd. I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist, and I am inking some comics right now. Penciled in Clip Studio Paint and printed onto a hammer mill sort of cardstock copy paper. And what am I using? Well, got a couple of color brush pens, some Stadler felt tips, pigment liners, microns, kind of dealies. And what do we got size? We got a 0.3 and a 0.7. And as I would begin, I already noticed that I missed a spot. Try to get some ink flow into this one. So get a little bit dry. I can listen. It's hard to hear, but I mean, there's a little bit of ink left in it, and I just want to get it. There we go. Margins of the page are where you can get that ink flow in the brush. Okay, I think I got it. You'll notice that I am not drawing the panel borders. And that's because, as I said, I penciled this in Clip Studio Paint. And so the borders are already defined in Clip Studio Paint. I'm just going to use those. I'll import these inks back into the penciling file on a new layer. And the panel borders will mask out all of the overlapping details. I should also say, you're probably going to hear some meowing. I'm running an experiment today. I normally close the door to my studio and leave my cats out. Today, I'm leaving the door open and just counting on them to be good kids and not jump up on the table when I'm drawing, but no promises. So I might get a special guest appearance by Martha B. or Shenandoah T. Let's see, what do I want to use to do this part? Do I dare try to do this with a brush? Elsewhere on the page, I've been inking this character with a micron. Felt tip, whatever you want to call it. Try to do this in a way where you can also see what I'm doing. The reason I'm debating about whether to use a brush or not is part of the reason I chose to do this inking on paper is to speed up the production of this book. I want to get it done as quickly as I can. And when I ink on paper, I tend not to be quite as fussy as I am when I ink digitally. But in this character, who is largely a mechanical creature, it's harder for me to dash off those strokes. So I'm still going slow. Probably not as slow as I would if I was working digitally though. Because, like, yeah, I can get the lines a little bit more quickly, but I do a lot of undoing. But then you can do something like that. That's great. Really nice, thick line. Get my dryer brush for this. Like that, right? Oh gosh, that's satisfying. We'll fix that in post. When I started this job, this is part of that Captain Seriously project, which I've talked about in other streams. Something I do for a school district in Michigan. Started this job almost 10 years ago now, and at the time when I took the gig, I didn't know it was going to be something that would last this long. I honestly thought, well, if I'm lucky, it'll be 2 years. Get 2 books with these characters. So I didn't design them for, like, oh, I'm going to draw these characters like hundreds of times. I designed them for being drawn maybe a dozen times. And so, like, her armor and her whole rigging is something that's, like, it's fun to draw, but it's a little time consuming. That said, this still is nowhere near as complex as they make superhero costumes nowadays, so I guess I shouldn't complain. I might get the, what is this, number 3? I need a number 7 maybe for her head. Going with brushes to do the black fills. Something I'd like to get back to eventually is inking with crow quills. That used to be my main inking tool of choice for, well, many years, and I kind of miss it. I really enjoyed the feeling of the metal nib on the paper. I have to be a little bit more delicate with these brushes. So this character here I'm inking now is one that was born out of just absolutely pure whimsy and trying to put my head in like my 11-year-old headspace. How did I feel about the world as an 11-year-old? How did I see things? And actually more like 8, because the first book I did was for second graders. And so I started coming up with like some really truly silly ideas, and one of them, because I did like I think like 15 different character designs. More than that. It was more than that. Don't remember. Again, it was almost a decade ago. But this character who was like, I was like, okay, dinosaur, alligator, dino-gator, boom, done. You know. Again, something I thought like, okay, it was just a quickly dashed off, silly idea to put in the book. I'll write about him twice, never write about him again. And now here I am, almost 10 years later, drawing him, and the organization that sponsors this project made a mascot out of this character. This is a costume now that young people wear, well, when we can gather in physical spaces, at like county fairs and things like that, like where they do like fundraising events and like outreach events. There are people who dress as this character now, and it's pretty wild how they solved the problem of making this actually work with a person in it. It's not an easy costume to wear. And what's even like more rewarding about that idea is they actually put it to a vote in the school district. Like they asked the kids, like, of the characters who we've not made costumes of yet, like proper, like, you know, college football mascot style costumes. They made 3 to start with. They made the main villain from the series. They made Dame Lady Cat, the talking ninja cat in the story. And they made the main hero, Captain SRSLY. And so they said, like, okay, of the remaining characters, who would you most want to see a mascot made of? And Dino Gator won by a landslide. And what's interesting about that to me is, like, I've done books for 2nd grade through 10th grade now, and this is the 1st grade book I'm doing. I've yet to do a story that focuses entirely on this character. He's always a support character in the stories. So I guess that just speaks to something about the design that's appealing to kids. I haven't really sat down to unbox that, but it's cool. Right, I'm going to use the microns for this close-up of her face because I want to get these details right. Number 3. Again, I've said it elsewhere, but like the main idea behind the character designs in this, like the guiding principle was, I was trying to think like, well, what would they do on Silverhawks? Because I still maintain that it's like one of the most wildly imaginative TV shows. Everything about that show is absurd. And I love it. And I think it's a perfect example of the kind of absurdity that I gravitate towards and I prefer. It's not what is it called, like Adult Swim or Robot Chicken absurdity. It's not absurdity that knows it's absurd. It's the absurdity that like feels like a dream. It's the absurdity that feels like a story a kid told you. Something feels much more charming to me about that. That's my taste. That is not a value judgment. I have friends who work on Adult Swim shows. Oh, there goes Martha. We were wondering when you'd show up, kid. what I might do here is actually go in with my brush to do some of the contours, just to give it a little bit of extra volume and depth, because microns are not as good at that. They're good at giving you control. Okay. So this weapon she's using, I think about this a lot when I'm making stories for really young people. She's using a sci-fi weapon that sucks the feelings out of you. It makes you, it takes away your emotions. This is a story for first graders, and it's all about like managing your feelings. So I'm trying to abstract it out a little bit. But I think about, like, okay, when I'm designing like fantasy weapons for little kids' stories, let's try to find something that feels like, again, like fantastical, abstracted. And then I got to thinking, and I actually have an example right here in the room. If anybody recognizes this, because it's inspired by, let's say inspired by, not ripped off from, it's inspired by. This thing right here, right? And this, if anybody recognizes it, is from a Transformers episode called The Master Builders, in which, see, I changed them from hexagons to octagons, so it's different, right? It's only got 1 point on the end instead of 3. But this was designed by the Autobot Grapple. It's the solar power tower that he built in the episode. So it's a device to gather solar energy and turn it into energon cubes. And so I thought, well, what if I made this energy drainer, this emotion drainer, look vaguely like this, inspired by this idea? It works in reverse. Also, from a creative standpoint, it's like the standpoint of being the creator. I have a lot of feelings invested in that episode of Transformers, so this design triggers emotions for me. So another reason I'm doing this all freehand when I'm inking it, I mean, I used rulers and stuff when I did the penciling, but I'm inking it all freehand. So I'm working on a hypothesis. I do this sort of framing exercise in my classes, where in the first meeting with the students, I show them a page of art that I did when I was 11 and one that I did a few years ago. And I don't tell them that I drew them. I just ask them, which one do you like better? And half the room likes the stuff I did when I was 11 better. Yet the whole room agrees that the one I did a few years ago looks more professional. I think that's an interesting idea. Let's explore this. What does that mean? And it's this whole idea of, like, you don't have to be a great illustrator to be a great storyteller, and what makes things appealing is not its technical perfection necessarily. That can help in understanding and practice of your fundamentals will always make your stuff better, but having lavish production values doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be appealing, right? And with the younger kids, I noticed that a lot more of them like the stuff I did when I was 11 better, and they'll often say, like, it looks like a person drew it. That's their words for it. Say, oh, why does the other one not look like a person drew it? I'm like, well, it looks like a computer was involved. And this is an assumption we need to like really. I feel like it's time to get over that assumption. Like people when they say like, oh, a computer was involved, therefore a person didn't do it. I was at a talk by a cartoonist, a well-known cartoonist at a university years ago. I will not name names. Someone asked him if he uses computers to assist in his work. He's like, no, I draw with my hands. I'm like, well, when you draw with the computer, you draw with your hands too, please. But that said, that sort of assumption or association persists. And so when it came to doing this book, I thought, well, let's lean into that assumption a little bit, or let's lean into that sort of that preference or that feeling, that assumption that people have, and make it look more hand-drawn. Well, how do I do that? Well, I freehand things so it looks a little less crisp and a little less perfect. You can see the hand of the artist. This is something that Mark Siegel once said, editor First Second Books, said he looks for the handwriting of the artist. And I think that's a really interesting idea. Like, not literally the handwriting that they write on the paper, but like there's a handwriting you have, a handwriting style in your line. Your line gives away something about your voice as an artist, right? So I was thinking about that too. Is like, how do I enhance that and really make that apparent? There's Dame Lady Cat. I don't know if this is better on the screen because so at this point in the story, Madeleine has stolen everybody's feelings. Now they just stand there, drained of passion, energy. And they can't stop her. Can you see my Care Bears / Rainbow Bright influence showing? Ay. Clacking my paper all over the place. I'm just going to do Dame Lady Cat's outer contours, I think, with this pen, and I'm going to switch to the other one to do the inner details. whiskers. And let's white pen for fixing big errors. How long have I been going? 26 minutes. Need to finish this pretty darn soon. I'm trying to keep these pages an hour or less. I'm going to cut myself a little bit of slack because there was a lot of panels in this page and a lot of characters. But at the same time, I've got 2 hours blocked in my morning for this activity. I wanted to get 2 pages done to stay on schedule. It's another one of those things that, like, when you talk about it, it sounds like, oh, you got a lot of control over your life because you got to keep a schedule. Well, no, the schedule is because I'm so disordered. I need to do it, otherwise I'll forget what I even need to do. Hey, Martha. Hey. What else? You don't say. And then what happened? See, this is what happens when you have cats. She's like, you know, I really could use some time playing with the string. If you could just go get the string, I'd love to chase it around. Kid, come on. Hey, come on, B. Martha. You can't see it, but she's grabbing the top of the paper and trying to play with it. Like cats do. Having cats is a good reminder that not everybody has to love comics the way you do. Come on, B. It's hard for me to get the comic page in this shot with you doing that. It's super fascinating. Martha is just under a year old. Okay, kid. So she's very enthusiastic and playful, and it's super charming and lovely, but also it's very hard to get anything done unless I shut the door. Oh, goodness, look at that. I can't even blame Martha for that, 'cause she's gone. I got a very wet brush here. And I try to do like a quick little fold in his shirt, and it came out like that. A big old chunky Frank Miller line. Man, all of these lines are chunky. I have to fix that digitally. That's too much to do with the... That's, as they say in the business, unfortunate. Might want to do a little bit of drawing in the margins just to dry out the brush a little bit. I recently started listening to the audiobook of Natalie Goldberg's Wild Mind. She did that book called Writing Down the Bones, a book about how to be a writer, how to write. And in this book, Wild Mind, where she's like expanding on some of her ideas that she put in Writing Down the Bones, she revisits her rules of writing. Now, I am always suspicious when somebody starts talking about, like, these are the rules. But I like the way she describes them, because she really says, like, yeah, this is what I do. Your mileage may vary. Do this. Don't do this. Because you're going to find your own path to doing it anyway. She's like, my goal isn't to make you do things, because I couldn't if I wanted to. Anyway, one of the rules she says that I really, like, identified with, because I think there's a truth to that, and I agree with it, is this idea of, like, keep your hand moving. Stop. Don't. We've heard this advice from a lot of people. Like, don't write with your editor on. Just get the ideas on there and then edit later. And I feel like there's a similarity. When it comes to drawing, I try to avoid getting caught up in fixing too many things while I'm going. Notice I said I try to avoid. I'm not always successful at it. I'm not always great at it. It's a habit I try to encourage in myself. So like when I'm goofed up these things, it's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's keep moving. Keep your hand moving. You can fix it later. Let's not lose our momentum. Getting hung up on fixing everything. Okay. Let me just have these two characters, and then I just got that silly background to do, and then I'm done. How are we doing on time? I'm a little over budget, but not the end of the world. You were my dry brush. Why are you so saturated now? Okay, so Elaine, you are going to get the felt tip pen treatment because you are tiny. Let's see if I can get in there so you can see what I'm doing. Another thing about this page is it represents a part in my journey of making this book where I had to do a course correction because it took entirely too long to pencil. I mean, I had maybe like an hour and a half budgeted to get the pencils done, and it took like 4 hours to pencil, and I'm like, that won't do. Why is that? And then I printed out the pencils, and I was like, there's too much detail on here for me to ink. So after this page, I switched my settings in Clip Studio Paint so to not allow me to zoom in too tight. So the following pages should be a little bit easier because the information on the page is not any more than what I can actually see. There's a bunch of information on her face here that I can't even tell what it is because it's just too darn small. Now just for some background panels and computers, and this page is done. And I'll have 3 more to ink. And once again, these backgrounds were all done with rulers. I'm freehanding them, partially to give them an authentic looking line, partially expedience, get this thing out the door. When I was young and starting on this whole business of drawing comics, I remember having this picture in my head. I think I'm doing the thing where I bury the lead again. I gotta get better at talking. I think I'm at a point now in my artistic journey where I'm beginning to trust that I know what I'm doing. And that's different from feeling established or like you have a plateau. Whatever language you use when you're first starting out, it's like, well, I just want to get to the point where I don't have to think about this anymore. And I think that's what I was really hoping for when I was in my early 20s. It's like, I'm going to get really good, and then this is just all going to be natural to me. I'm not going to have to think about it. I'll effortlessly write and draw everything. And I'm like, well, that's not my experience. It all comes with effort. But the one nice thing is, as I've gotten a little bit farther along in this, is that I'm beginning to trust that, okay, what I do has enough structure and understanding behind it that I can trust that this is enough. And that's not the same as feeling like I don't have to think about it. But it's not nothing. And if I could go back in time to tell my young self that, I would. I don't know if that'd be very helpful. Almost there. Is it done? I think it might be. Did I miss anything? I think that's good. There. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of time left. I've got like 15 minutes left in the stream. So I'll get some the next page, and you'll see that I have much more of an appropriate amount of detail on the next page, considering what I'm up against in terms of inking it. So let's do our balloons first. This is what I've been doing. So I'm hand drawing the balloons to give it that extra sense of authenticity. I'm pretty sure I live streamed the penciling of this page. This is page 8. Mitographia. Thanks for the thumbs up. And this is the moment in the story where Dame Lady Cat is asking for the reader's help. I'm such a sucker for that kind of idea. And I did it at the end of Science Comics Rockets, where we basically talk about, well, what's the future of rockets going to be? And one of the characters says, well, that's up to the people reading this book right now. I know not everybody is a fan of that idea, but I am. It is such an easy way to get my emotional investment in something. I'm the kid in the audience who goes, me? Me? You want me to go? Let's put a little bit of relish on this one. She's saying, hurry! All right, where do I begin? You know what? Let's start at panel 1. Why not? Get my number 3. The heroes in their Sunbow cartoon future base. Someday I may get tired of chasing Floro Derry's design aesthetic, but not yet. Cat's the main character? Well, no, the cat's just a member of the team, and there's 5 members of the team that we see here, and I usually pick 1 or 2 of them to sort of focus on in each individual story. So there's this sort of half pro wrestler, half lucha libre wrestler hero. There's a dinosaur alligator. There's the talking cat, and there's 2 humans. It's sort of like think of it as like Fantastic Four meets the Justice League kind of storytelling. It's a superhero story for little kids. A little bit Challengers of the Unknown. A little bit G.I. Joe. It's kind of inspired by all those things. As I was saying earlier, the main aesthetic I'm always trying to get to, or that was like inspiring a lot of the design choices in this series, was the old Rankin Bass cartoon Silverhawks. And so just like this very Kid Logic-y kind of mix of characters. And the cat, her powers are incredible fighting skills. She's like a ninja. But she dresses like Mary Poppins. And her big beef is she doesn't like bad manners. Because all these characters are meant to like represent sort of like ideas of positive behavior for children. So she fights against bad manners. Turnbuckle Tootweiler is a wrestling champ. He's like physicality, going outside during recess and like, you know, expressing yourself with your body kind of idea. Captain SRSLY is wisdom and courage. Captain Yarley is cleverness and technical know-how. And Dino Gator is kindness and compassion. That's the main idea anyway, with the basic approach to the characters. Let's see. Let's try to dry out this brush just a tiny bit to get some thin lines out of it. The nice thing about these brushes is the ink is in the brush, so I don't have to carry around an ink bottle, but the downside is it's not as easy to control your dryness as it is with a traditional inking brush. A little bit of a tangent going on here between Turnbuckle's arm and Dino Gator's nose. Brushes didn't come easy to me. I was very much like 10 years ago. I was a big fan of the Crow Quill, and for the same reason I love the brush now. It's like one tool, and you can get like a wide variety of line values out of it. There's something very elegant to that, and you don't have to constantly change tools, which is nice. But then I decided, okay, well, maybe it has something to offer me, but I didn't want to just dive in and start using it in my professional work. So I took a year. I gave myself a year, and I did a warm-up drawing almost every weekday. And I turned it into like a Tumblr blog. It was like, here's my warm-up drawings, and it was me training myself how to use the brush pen. And so what did I draw? So I chose subjects that were fun for me to draw, things that I knew I could draw well. So that all I'm really focused on, I'm not focused on like trying to capture a likeness or try to remember the details of something or try to really capture an awesome pose. Nope, just do things that come absolutely easy to you, that are joyful for you to draw. So then all you're learning is just how to control this darn thing. And I did lots and lots of drawings over that year, and shared them on my blog. And I actually wound up like selling a lot of the sketches, because I chose subjects that like many other people my age really enjoyed. I was drawing like cartoon characters from the 80s, so G.I. Joe characters, Transformers, GoBots, Galaxy Rangers, Sky Commanders, all that stuff. Oh yeah, the Filmation Ghostbusters. Anyway, but so what I got out of it was like, it was a fun way to get attention for my art while I was also simultaneously doing like on-the-job training. And when I came out the other end of that, that was when I got this job, and I said, okay, well, let's try to do an entire comic in brush pen. I still can't get it to do everything that I want it to do, but I get it pretty darn close. But yeah, no tool has ever come like super intuitively to me. As a matter of fact, like even the Crow Quill, for years when I was first working as a cartoonist in my first published gigs, I was so afraid of using ink tools that I just I did really dark pencils. I remember reading someplace that an artist I admired did that, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do, because I know how to use pencil, kind of. And then about like 6 or 7 years in, I was like, you know what? I bet there's a lot that inking has to offer. I should really try to learn some of these things. It's the same deal. I just gave myself a lot of time to learn it. All right, I'm going to do her goggles with pen. I mean felt tip pen. And then I did the same thing in, I want to say, 2013? So it's been about 7 years now. 2013, no, almost 8 years now. I was working on the second issue of this book. I do a different one every year. And that was the year that I said, hey, you know what? This thing everybody's using called Manga Studio seems to have a lot of great stuff to offer. Maybe it's time I learned Manga Studio. And then I did it with the second issue of this book. I penciled and inked it in Manga Studio, which was not the most intuitive thing to do for me. Let's see how much time I got left. I'm almost at time, but I'm going to see if I can just get Captain Yarley here inked real quick. And I hear Martha behind me, which means we might get a surprise appearance where she totally Alvin and the Chipmunks-es me. Yeah, I love Clip Studio. I've been using that for all of my projects. This was penciled in Clip Studio, as a matter of fact, and then print out on to like some cardstock. I've used Clip Studio for all my comics projects for like the last 7 years. It's a brilliant piece of software that solves so many problems for cartooning. And I was praying for that software to exist like 25 years ago. I remember when I started learning Photoshop, and I was like, well, if only Photoshop could do this, this, and this, you know? What if I had automatic paneling tools? What if I had perspective rulers? What if you could draw in vector? Like, it took a while, but it finally came out. So actually, usually my live streams are Tuesday and Thursday, or is it Monday and Thursday? Oh my gosh, I should really know my own schedule. But I do it twice a week, and the one at the top of the week I usually am drawing in Clip Studio, and then I do analog drawing on Thursdays. Martha B. Alright, I'm going to wrap this up. So, thank you everybody for hanging out with me today and chatting with me while I'm drawing. It's always nice to have company in the studio. Besides my cat, Martha. And I will be back next week. I should check. I'm going to check my schedule right now to find out when the heck I'm doing this again. Because this is where my life is now. I don't know unless I've written it down someplace. Okay, Monday. Monday the 18th. I'm going to be back at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central. And I'll be live streaming while I'm drawing. So, thanks again. Once again, I've been Jerzy Drozd. jdrozd.com, Jerzy Drozd on Instagram. Okay, bye.